This is Talkback 721-1290 or 1-800-568-5309.
This is Newstalk KGVO, AM 1290 and 98.3 FM. KGVO, Missoula's news and weather station.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Tuesday, November 12th edition of Talkback. Talkback this morning is brought to you by Y West Storage out of the Y on Two Smokes Way. If you need storage, I'll bet they have a unit for you. Find out by calling 406-510-0590 because at Y West, they're making room for you. Phillips Janitorial does both cleaning for residential and commercial, your home and your business. No job too big or small for them. Here's their number for Phillips, 406-260-6617. Also brought to you by 123 Seamless Gutters, offering gutter installation. Still time before the big snow falls, and give them a call today at 406-240-2669 as they're protecting the foundation of your future. And by Harrington Surgical Supply, where you can feel confident in their discreet and knowledgeable guidance on a multitude of products and medical supplies.
The views and opinions expressed on Talkback are not those of the staff, management, or advertisers.
Well, it's good to have Mr. Nick Christensen back here in the studio. Good morning, Mr. Nick.
Good morning.
Welcome. Hope you enjoyed your day off, man.
Sure.
We didn't
kind of a day off, yeah.
Didn't give you much time to relax, did we? No, absolutely not.
It was all right. It was good enough.
Lots of stuff going on yesterday, but here we are, a brand new Talkback this morning, and for the first hour, we're going to have open phones.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, so the phone lines are open, whatever might be on your mind. If you are still not over what happened a week ago today, if you're still not over the election, if you some things you want to still talk about or
still celebrating,
yeah, whatever it might be, give us a call, whatever it might be. It's open phones basically from now until 9 o'clock this morning. So if there's something going on, after we had a very important city talk on Friday talking about infilling and trying to build some of these areas that are already developed and how we're going to help those areas again. So anyway, whatever might be on your mind this morning, we'd love to talk to you about it. That's what Open Phones is all about. So you can either call us, 721-1290 or 1-800-568-5309, or, of course, you can use the KGVO app. And if you haven't downloaded that, I hope you will right away, because with the app, you can message us while we're on Talkback, even though you can't get to a phone, and we'll be happy to put your message on the air. So, Nick, who do we got?
We got Jerry.
All right, Jerry, good morning, sir. You are on Talkback. Thanks for holding. Go ahead, please.
Hey, thank you for putting me on early. I've got two issues I'd like to discuss, and they raise some question about how issues are reported by the news media. The first one this morning, finally, KGVO had one about the wreck or whatever,
yes,
the incident at Malfunction Junction.
Right.
Where we knew there was some kind of accident out there that caused a wide power outage. No detail. That was 5 days ago.
Right.
And there was very little detail by anybody about what happened. Finally, KGVO comes out and says, well, there was an accident on the fairgrounds, a car in a building, not on the road, a car in a building in the fairgrounds.
Right.
But very little detail. What building had it?
I will tell you this. I spoke with the spokesperson for the Missoula Police Department, who provided me the information that she had, and I was very grateful to get it. Of course, as you know, anybody who lives in the area or was trying to drive around Malfunction Junction during rush hour on Friday knows what a circus it was, because there were no lights, and they had shut down the intersection, and people were driving all over Creation trying to get home after work, and nobody really, as you mentioned, nobody really knew what happened. So, but
there were no news reports by anybody about a major incident about what was really going on.
Right.
So where in the heck are the reporters that are supposed to be out on the street? My second problem is reporting on the women's soccer field tournament.
Okay.
There's a big Skye tournament here in Missoula. That's usually a pretty good event. There's been very, very little reporting on what happened out there. There were 3 games in the preliminary that ended in ties.
Wow.
And the ties were broken by penalty kicks. Very little detail. The Grizzlies was one of them, about Well, how many kicks were there, and what was the procedure? Very little detail on it. And then the last championship game also ended in a tie, and it ended in a penalty kick. Well, do people really understand what's a penalty kick? How do you do the ties? Again, the reporting on that was absolutely nil for a major tournament in Missoula. And I think that just comes back. There is some very poor reporting going on about Missoula events. And I rely on listening to the radio and that for a lot of my news, and I didn't hear very much of it. So
well, I will tell you, we have Jerry. We appreciate that. We do have. Go ahead, Nick, please.
Well, I was just going to tell you, Jerry, Ace, our friend over at KISS, and then KGRZ, he covered the entire Grizz tournament, and he was there on Friday. And he wrote an article about it on November 8th, which I believe was Friday. So, because obviously the Grizz lost their first game, but he did a whole article on it. So if you want to follow sports like Grizz Sports, you want to go to kgrzmissoula.com. And you'd be able to find a bunch of information there. He had that story Friday.
That's one of our affiliate stations.
Yeah.
Well, that was one. But again, you have all kinds of news on your station and you get them from all over the state. And there was very little reporting about that. And a lot of people, we don't go to some of these other in specialty sites.
Right.
We rely on you people to give us a lot of the basic news. So I don't know. I just kind of feel left out. So
well, Jerry,
thank you very much for the opportunity.
We will take that criticism to heart because we know you love KGVO and we appreciate you calling to let us know. Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
All right. Thanks for the call. All right. With that, we're up against a break. We're going to come right back. 721-1290 is our number. 1-800-568-5309. The phone lines are open for whatever you want to talk about this morning. We'll be right back after this.
Call 123-SEAMLESS. Dennis Bragg with your Town Square weather forecast. Valley rain with high country snow continues on Tuesday, turning to all rain in the afternoon. Snow totals at the passes and in the peaks could be anywhere from a few inches up to a foot across western Montana as this storm pushes through. Gusty winds will continue as we climb into the mid-40s again Tuesday afternoon. Wednesday looks to be a cloudy day. Then we get our next round of moisture, bringing more rain in the valleys and snow at the higher elevations, especially above 4,500 feet.
Hey, we're back. This is Talkback. 721-1290 is our number. It's open phones till 9 o'clock this morning. And then the Mansfield Center from the University of Montana will be visiting for a very important hour from 9 to 10. Susan is up next. Susan, good morning, ma'am. You're on Talkback. What's up?
Hey, I just wanted to thank you for coming to, I think it was the best attended Veterans Day ceremony ever at the Doughboy.
Well, it was beautiful. It was a beautiful day, so that helped a lot.
It really was, and it wasn't. We were supposed to get cruddy weather, and we got gorgeous weather. So it was really, really nice, and we had. I don't know. I lost track after 200 people. It was hundreds of people that were there, and it was just lovely, and I just was delighted. And we had a huge turnout at the American Legion for breakfast and a nice turnout at the VFW. And I want to thank the people of Missoula for honoring our veterans yesterday.
You bet.
It was very lovely.
And some of the words that were spoken there were pretty profound. I was moved.
They were. Yeah, I was moved by Mayor Andrea Davis. I thought her comments were so sweet and so tender. And I also thought that General Stovall's comments about our Iwo Jima gentleman, Rondo, were really interesting. I had no idea the whole background. I knew Rondo had got into the Marines at 16, but I did not realize that he had got into it through his sister's birth certificate. who was a year older. I thought, oh, Rondo.
Yeah.
But that was very interesting, and I thought all of the people who spoke did a wonderful job.
You bet. Well, Susan, we wouldn't have had those celebrations if not for you, and so I know you don't. I know you're very humble about that, but I will tell you that the major patriotic events we have around Missoula are pretty much on your very strong shoulders, and we sure appreciate all you do.
Well, and anytime somebody wants to step up and do any of them with me, have at it.
You got it. Susan.
I will show them the ropes.
All right. Susan, thanks for the call. By the way, they have to wear red, white, and blue, though, right? Anyway, okay, well, we let her go. All right, that's fine. Let's get Jeff on the line. Jeff, good morning, sir. You're on Talkback. What's up?
Hey, good morning. Happy day after Veterans Day. Yeah, two things real quick. First of all, it's a week since the election, and so far I haven't seen any jackbooted thugs, fascists on the streets doing anything. So I don't know what that says, except that maybe it's not going to happen. And meanwhile, this was something that was published. I didn't come up with this, but there has been something called the Trump effect, that within 72 hours after winning winning the election, there have been over 10 things that happened. I'm just going to give a few. The stock market hit all-time highs.
Right.
There's a migrant caravan coming up through Mexico that has lost about half the people in there as they realize, oh, crap, the border's going to be secured. Qatar, this is a biggie. Qatar is going to evict the Hamas leaders. The leaders of Hamas don't live in Gaza. They live in Qatar in five-star hotels.
Wow.
And Qatar has said, oh, you don't get to live here anymore. So they don't know where they're going. Maybe to Turkey, because Erdogan likes them, but Qatar is evicting them. Hamas wants an immediate end to the war. Oh, go figure. The Taliban wants a new chapter. China is ready for peaceful coexistence. EU, when the leader of the EU called Trump to congratulate him, she said, yeah, we want to buy your gas, not Russian gas. Ukraine's in talks. You know, the Trump, he's not even president yet. And there have been a bunch of different benefits to his election. So for those people who say that they want to, that he's not going to be good for the country, he's already been good.
Let me ask you something. What is it about this guy, Donald Trump, that seems to evoke such reactions from world leaders, right? Who are basically coming hat in hand to say just all the things you just mentioned.
Because he's strong, he's not weak. That's been the consistent cry about Biden for 4 years. He's weak. We withdrew from Afghanistan. The very first thing he did showed weakness. It wasn't. We didn't do it in a well-ordered fashion. It was reminiscent of Vietnam, and everything since then has been nothing but weakness and poor policy decisions. So I don't know. I can't explain human behavior. I can't even explain my behavior a lot of times. But, one other thing I want to talk about, though, is that a couple of days ago. I'm sorry, dogs in the background.
Go ahead, Jeff.
No. Sorry. Sorry, there's... there was an article in Missoula that MRA is sending $5.3 million in TIF to the city, the county, the schools, and the bus system, and the state. I don't know. Did you see that?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Well, apparently there's a... one-time request for money to the state or to the city. The MRA is going to give money that they collected from taxes from the city that the city then gave to the MRA. They're going to give it back to the city, and that's about $2.2 million. However, law says even though the money all came from the city, you can't just give the money to the city. You have to give money to the county and the school system, the bus system, and the state. And so that drove the cost of giving the city $2.2 million. There's another $3.1 million they got to give other people. Wow. That's in money that came out of the city into the Missoula Redevelopment Agency and is now going to go to other agencies in and around the state. That's $2.1 million or $3.1 million that the city could use for things like, I don't know, like a fire station, all sorts of different things. So I think folks don't realize what an overbloated, unaccountable, bureaucratic monstrosity the Missoula Redevelopment Agency is. No one knows how much money they have. No one knows how much money they give. When they give it reluctantly, like somehow they got it, and you have to go begging hat in hand for it. It's completely unaccountable at this point, and I think Missoulians need to understand that and protest that.
All right, Jeff, we're a little past a break. Thanks for the call. We appreciate it. When we come back, we have Harry, Larry, Dave, and Candy all waiting to visit. It's open phones till 9 o'clock, by the way, whatever might be on your mind this morning. We'd love to hear from you. We'll be right back after this timeout.
What's a corn farmer's favorite dog? A husky.
Some things shouldn't be flat. But with GHX, you can maximize your acres with one flat price. While other brands sell by the bag, we sell seed by the acre to maximize your yield and profit potential. Our custom seed recommendations combine extensive product characterization and agronomic expertise to get the right product, population, and placement, all for one flat price per acre. Learn how at ghxseed.com/connect.
With KGRZ Sports, I'm A. Sauerwein with your daily update, brought to you by Republic Services. At yesterday's press conference, Montana Grizzly football head coach Bobby Hauck was asked were there any positives to take away from the loss against UC Davis Saturday.
You know, the way I approach it is there's one positive, and that's when you win, and when you don't, it's not. And so, you know, we just don't, you know, we care about winning and losing, and we didn't take the game on Saturday when we had a chance to, so it's not very positive.
And then Coach Hauck was asked what he wanted entering the season. Did he want one quarterback? Did he want multiple? What did he envision?
You know, the honest answer is I don't really care one way or the other.
Coach Hauck and the Montana Grizzlies will welcome in another Coach Hauck in the Portland State Vikings. Bobby will be up against his son, Robbie, who is on the coaching staff for Portland State. 1 o'clock kickoff this Saturday. Bobby got the best of Robbie last year when the Grizz defeated Portland State. That's a look at sports. I'm A. Sauerwein.
Suck it up.
It's not a big deal.
Snap out.
Just get over it.
We've all heard it. But if you're experiencing extreme stress, it's not just in your head. It can affect your entire body because toxic stress can hurt us physically without us even knowing it. If you've lost a job, worry about your next meal, or have trouble making it through the day, if you're feeling the effects of stress, we can help. Text STRESS to 211-211 to find a solution.
Welcome back.
AAA Plumbing and Heating.
Dennis Bragg with your Town Square weather forecast. Valley rain with high country snow continues on Tuesday, turning to all rain in the afternoon. Snow totals at the passes and in the peaks could be anywhere from a few inches up to a foot across western Montana as this storm pushes through. Gusty winds will continue as we climb into the mid-40s again Tuesday afternoon. Wednesday looks to be a cloudy day. Then we get our next round of moisture, bringing more rain in the valleys and snow at the higher elevations, especially above 4,500 feet.
If you served, we want you to get the health care and benefits you earned. We want you to come to VA.
There's never been a better time to apply. Under a new law called the PACT Act, we've expanded VA care and benefits to millions of people who served and their survivors.
No matter where you served or how long you served, check out va.gov/PACT to learn more about what VA can do for you and your family.
Come to VA.
Chris Jackamick, I served in the United States Air Force and I deployed 3 times. So in 2017, I was serving as an Air Force First Sergeant. Our motto in that role is my job is people, everyone is my business. But unfortunately in that year, I would lose my own brother, Lance Corporal Adam Jackamick, to suicide. The majority of veteran suicides are from guns. I store my weapons securely, not only for myself, but for my family. Store all your guns securely. Help stop suicide. My service never stops.
Brought to you by End Family Fire and the Ad Council.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. Open phones moving right along here this morning. Lots of folks waiting in line. Larry is up next. Larry, good morning, sir. You are on Talkback. What's on your mind, please?
Good morning. I just had
had a chance to talk with Mayor Davis, and I congratulated her on finally getting some remittance back from the MRA. Some of those districts are 40 years old, and we've never received the benefits as citizens for them sequestering our money. And I just, Jeff's comments were, it was all the city taxpayers that paid that, but each one of the taxing districts there, the county, the schools, and the other taxing districts, that money that would have gone to the schools, county, and these other taxing districts was all moved into the MRA. And so the city had to distribute that money back to those taxing districts that actually would have received that money if there hadn't been an MRA district. I may be a little aged on exactly knowing the details of that, but I think you can check with Tyler Gurnant, the treasurer, and see if that's the case. But I'm pretty sure it was back in the 80s when I was involved in that stuff. But that whole MRA taking our money and never giving us the carrot is finally starting to break down, and it just shows how much money the MRA has, and there needs to be more of those districts that are sunsetted. So those are my comments, and appreciate your being there, Peter, to cover the ceremony. It was a good day. We had lots of people. Susan did a great job, and we had some great speakers there. So
I was moved because my everybody in my family except me is a veteran, and I get a little teary when I think about all the sacrifices they made for me. So yeah.
Okay.
All right, thanks, Larry. Take care, and thanks for your service too, sir. Bye. All right, let's get Dave on the line. Dave, good morning, sir. You are on Talkback. What's up?
Yes, first of all, I really hope that Donald Trump has a good presidency, and people in America is a better place when he leaves. But as far as history goes, Jeff, I wanted to talk to what he said. Donald Trump, February 29th, 2020, signed a peace agreement with the Taliban, ignoring the Afghan government that was in power, and forcing the Afghan government to release 5,000 Taliban prisoners, and in effect made it a guarantee that the Taliban would win in Afghanistan. And that was to go into effect April 1st, when 2021, when we would have to have all our equipment out. It was impossible for us to get our equipment out by that date, and Biden extended the date to August 31st to get more of the equipment out. But of course, everything went sour, and Americans died. But it's quite possible that some of the 5,000 people that Trump forced to get out of prison were involved in the death of Americans. Now, if he continues this kind of peace deals, we're heading for troubles.
All right, Dave, thanks for the call. Appreciate it. Let's move right along. Get Candy on the line. Candy, good morning. You're on Talkback, ma'am. What's on your mind?
Yes, I'm very happy that Trump won. The hand of God is on him, and we forget that, because God doesn't like to share his glory. So we aren't glorifying God in all this. And Trump is a Christian. He espouses Christ as his Savior. And so I think all this stuff that's going on is a godly thing. And God doesn't like to share his glory with man. So I'd leave it alone and let God do his thing, because we're in for a lot of stuff that we aren't possibly emotionally and mentally prepared for, like the 325,000 children that are missing, and I think that God is going to reveal all this stuff in these coming years, that the evil in this country is so overwhelming. It started in the garden, and we can't get that through our head. We blame God for everything, but he's not to blame, because Satan is the prince of this world, and he knows it. God knows it.
Candy?
And that's why he left. And, you know.
Candy, thank you. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. I know when you bring God up in these discussions that there's an adverse feeling I get from you, Peter, because you don't like to talk about God's hand in all of this. And it was relevant, and it's in full sight. And if we don't start giving God the glory, we are in for bad times. Thank you.
All right, thanks for the call. With that, we're up against a break. We're going to come right back. We have Wingnut, Ed, and Rick all waiting, and several other phone lines are open at 721-1290 or 1-800-568-5309. We are coming back right after this.
Small businesses are the heart of America. But you don't have to go it alone. As the nation's largest nonprofit resource of expert business mentoring, SCORE has helped millions of entrepreneurs build their businesses for free. Get the connections, education, and guidance you need with SCORE. We're ready to help. Find a mentor today at score.org.
Hey, welcome back to Talkback. 721-1290 is our number. It's open phones. What's on your mind for the next 18 minutes? Let's get Mr. Wingnut. Thank you for holding so long, sir. What's on your mind?
Well, good morning. Peter, you're doing a yeoman's job of enduring the barrage of opinions that are coming your way, and I'm sure at the top of the hour, Nick will hear a deep sigh issue from your corner.
Well, you know what? I'll be honest with you. I love open phones. Because it's like that. What's that old saying? You never know what you're going to get. You know what I mean? And so that's the whole idea of open phones, so that people can express their opinions. People can agree or disagree, or be comfortable or uncomfortable with whatever they're talking about. But we give people a chance to say their piece, and so it's cathartic. They feel better about it. So what's on your mind today, sir?
Well, I'll just add to the love then.
Go for it.
I wanted to get in the Wayback Machine and go back to last week's program with ESG Long Bob, whom I'm lovingly referred to as Bob, and the Grumbling Bobbleheads. And Bob made the quote that we, and I quote, "Be sure to get our facts right," end of quote. And so I thought I do a couple fact checks on the program that seemed off to me. And one of the ones was one of the bobbleheads made the statement. He brought up the subject, and I quote, of tax cuts and trade relations, end quote. And Bob responded, quote, "which is why he was voted in primarily, economic issues," end quote. And I thought, that just doesn't quite sit right, sound right. Sounds kind of hinky to me. So I looked up the CNN exit polling and the CBS exit polling and some articles on it. And candidly, if you took it at the headlines or the opening paragraph, if you just took it as verbatim and didn't actually look at the underlying statistics, you might come away with that impression. But the facts are, in the underlying statistics, that the reason that folks voted, the most important issue for the voters was, number one, was a category called democracy at 34%. The economy came in second at 32%. But if you further dissected that down into the ones who actually put Trump into office, that immigration was the highest reason or issue for them voting for Trump at 90%, versus the economy at 80%. So I wanted to correct that dis or misinformation there. Secondly, Bob had a issue with the $6 billion that had been allocated in a new Green Deal, and getting that spent before Trump comes in, and he opined that it just wouldn't be possible for that to happen. And Jeff brought up the colors of money, and as a former bureaucrat myself, I know that if you reach the end of the fiscal year and you had allocated funds and you had not spent or obligated those, you were called up on the carpet for it, and it was hell to pay. But further, not just experience, Jake Sullivan said on Sunday that $6 billion would be spent before January. So that indicates to me that it's not just my experience or Jeff's comments, that there is a procedure or a process to make that happen. So that's and lastly, on Friday's show, the whole idea of Social Security and the tax cuts for that came up. But what one person didn't say is they fumbled about on how, well, what would we do? How could we make this happen? Well, I'm going to offer a solution that nobody mentioned, and that to pay for those, you actually cut the spending or get rid of government agencies in order to make that happen, which is exactly what we would do in our personal lives if we have a
you better believe it.
Obligation.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So
all right.
Anyway, that's my barrage for the day.
Well, you barraged well. Thanks for the call. All right, let's move on to get Ed on the line next. Ed, good morning, sir. You're on Talkback. What's up?
Yes, in the past couple of days, saw on TV a fellow named Tom Homan. He's a new border czar,
right?
And he wears that with pride instead of trying to ignore it like Harris did. And I was really impressed with this guy. I don't know if you've seen the interviews on him, but for crying out loud, if I was an illegal alien, I'd be hopping back south across the border right now. This guy is tough, and he doesn't care about sanctuary cities, sanctuary states. He's saying, get out of my way. And he's not going to deport 22 million people in one big swoop, but he's going after the bad guys first and get out of this guy's way. There are a lot of interviews online, so get one where he's talking about his role in the border crisis.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see what happens, especially with Mayorkas. If you remember, he looked lost every time he was down by the border, and I think with this gentleman, he's going to go striding in with the Border Patrol and say, "Okay, let's start here and move on."
He's a former ICE director,
right?
And he's somebody who is almost as enjoyable to listen to as John Kennedy, Senator from Louisiana.
They're very entertaining. Okay. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Thank you for the call, sir.
Tom Holman.
No, yep. Tom Holman. Got it. Thank you, sir. I believe Rick is up next. Rick, good morning, sir. You are on Talkback. What's on your mind, please?
Well, I have a comment and a question for you. My comment is the media pundits are still questioning why Harris would never answer any questions. And I think the question is, she spent $1 billion and is still $20 million in the hole for her campaign for 3 months. And would they want somebody like that to handle the economy? That's my comment on the political pundits and their love for Harris.
Okay.
Question for you is, could you have somebody on that knows a little more about the FEMA situation, the FEMA hack job, partisan hack job on the Trump supporters down in Florida? I can't believe that one woman is responsible for this whole thing, and I think there needs to be investigation, and that not only should they lose their jobs, but they should be maybe thrown in prison, because this is a pretty bad thing where you're not helping people that are actually helpless at the time. And I was just wondering if you could have somebody on at some time to comment about all this malfeasance that we have in FEMA.
That's a very good question, and Nick is our producer, and so we'll see what we can do.
If we can find somebody.
You bet, absolutely.
That's very specific.
And you bring up a very good point, because during the hurricanes, the severe hurricanes that swept through, including the one that went all the way up into the Carolinas and devastated dozens and dozens of small communities that are still pretty much cut off from the world, even after all this time. And it's all of a sudden the news cycle has moved on. We had the election. Oh, gee, it's too bad for you guys. And they're still suffering. And I know our emergency services sent folks down there. So I'm eager to talk with them about, now that they're back, we're going to find out just exactly, what they had a chance to help with. And I'm looking forward to that.
Well, I don't know if Rob Nadelson could address the question on the legal, what can be done to these people legally, but they definitely need to have their feet to the fire, and some people need to really go to prison for this, because it's a travesty, to tell you the truth.
All right, Rick, thanks for the call. We appreciate it, sir. We're going to come right back. Phone lines are open still for another 8 minutes, and then we have special guests coming into the studio this morning from the University of Montana Mansfield Center. And so we'll be talking with them from 9 to 10, but we'll get Greg on the phone and hopefully your phone calls. And if you would like to use the KGVO app, we'll get your messages out as well. We'll be back right after this 1 minute timeout. Monday, November 11th. Hey, welcome back to Talkback. 721-1290 is our number. Let's get right back to the phone. Say good morning to Greg. First of all, Greg, thank you for your patience in waiting through the breaks. What's on your mind, sir?
No problem. A couple of your previous callers were commenting on the MRA and the remittance to the city. What I didn't hear from them was the reason for the remittance, and that was because the city failed to balance its budget. And then they had to, quote, from a past mayor, borrow the money from the MRA to balance their budget. This happened with Davis. This happens with Hess. This happened with Engine. And there's no incentive. I mean, they're legally they can borrow. They can get the money back from the MRA if they fail to balance the budget. But if there's no incentive for the city to balance the budget when they can do that. So that's my comment.
All right. Well, Greg, thanks for the call. Yeah, that's pretty alarming when you hear it that way. I would love to get the official explanation on all that. So anyway, we have about 4 minutes left in our open phones time. The phone lines are clear. It's 721-1290 or 1-800-568-5309. So if there's something on your mind and you want to get it off your chest, now's the time to do it. In just a few minutes, we'll be visiting with the folks from the University of Montana Mansfield Center, and we have special guests coming into the studio to talk about, I believe, the Project on American Democracy and Citizenship. So lots of good things going on there, especially since we just wrapped up a major political election in this country. So there you go.
I know you talked about it real briefly at the beginning with Susan, but
yes.
How was the Veterans Day ceremony?
Oh, the Veterans Day ceremony was particularly moving. First of all, the weather cooperated wonderfully. You have to remember, most of these veterans, World War II, Korea War veterans, and even Vietnam veterans, are getting up there in years. They're in their 70s, 80s, some even in their 90s. And when the weather is inclement, when it's cold and snowing and the wind is blowing, they can't come out. But it was a beautiful day yesterday, a little bit cool, a little crisp, but there were lots of people there. They were all in uniform. There was lots of good old-fashioned camaraderie and joy and, handshaking. Hadn't seen you for a while, people renewing acquaintances. And then, of course, whenever you get a bunch of veterans together, there's a lot of storytelling going on. I mean, there's a lot of sharing of, do you remember when we were stationed here and went to that site and that sort of thing. And as someone who did not serve, I I enjoy just kind of hanging back and listening to these warriors share stories with each other because, you know, they were there, they paid the price, and they came back, and many of their compatriots did not. And so when it comes to Veterans Day and, you know, Armed Forces Day and all those things that deal with veterans, I have a special place in my heart because my mother was a drill instructor in the Marine Corps. My dad retired as a lieutenant colonel. My brother served in the Army, and my grandfather fought in World War I. So, you know, I've got a great military historic tradition behind me, and I absolutely enjoy being around those folks because they are they're wonderful people. They gave it all for our country, and in many ways, hopefully, they don't feel forgotten. So anyway, just want to throw my piece in there. 721-1290 is our number. We still have about a minute and a half before we have to take our hard break and get into our next hour. So we do have another guest.
Yeah, we have Brad.
Brad, good morning, sir. You're on Talkback. What's up, sir?
Good morning. I want to, you mentioned Veterans Day, and I want to give a shout out to the restaurants and whomever that was willing to spend their own money and the employees to give the veterans a free meal.
Right.
That's something that, you know, very nice. Had a chance to go to Mustard Seed a couple times. I've been there now, but anyway, I just wanted to mention that and hope you also will let's thank the people. Let's thank those people who were willing to spend their own money and time to give the veterans a nice meal.
You bet. And that's very well said. Thank you. I will say, and also to me, a big thank you to Susan Campbell Renault, because we have an affectionate term for her here. We call her Mrs. America, because she is the one who is behind every one of those patriotic celebrations: Memorial Day, 4th of July, you name it, Veterans Day, Flag Day, Flag Retirement Day. So she is there, and she has her feet on the ground, and she walks the walk in addition to talking the talk. So blessings on Susan, and of course all the folks who help her. We're going to come right back after the top of the hour. Stay with us. More on the way on Talkback.
This is Talkback, 721-1290 or 1-800-568-5309.
This is Newstalk KGVO, AM 1290 and 98.3 FM. KGVO, Missoula's news and weather station.
Hey, welcome back, everyone. It's hour number 2 of the Tuesday, November 12th edition of Talkback. Talkback this morning is brought to you by Harrington Surgical Supply, where appointments are preferred for mastectomy fittings and custom compressions, but walk-ins are always welcome. Also brought to you by 123 Seamless Gutters. If you need your gutters repaired or installed, give them a call. They take care of the gutters so you don't have to. Call 406-240-2669. They are protecting the foundation of your future. Also brought to you by Phillips Janitorial, offering both home and business cleaning. No job is too big or small for Phillips. Their number, 406-260-6617. And finally by Y West Storage, out of the Y on Two Smokes Way. If you need a storage unit, put this number in your phone, 406-510-0590. At Y West, we are making room for you.
The views and opinions expressed on Talkback are not those of the staff, management, or advertisers.
Okay, here we are, and we're shifting gears now. We have special guests here in the studio from the University of Montana Mansfield Center. We have Ericka Coe and Skye Borden both with us. Thanks for coming. We appreciate it. How are you?
Thanks for having us. I'm doing great.
All right. So if you don't mind, I'll just read a quick little top bio here. This is Ericka. Now, you've been on the show before.
Yeah, in September.
And welcome back.
Thank you.
Ericka is a political theorist whose work focuses on contemporary political theory, civic engagement, and democratic theory. She holds a doctorate in political science from Indiana University in Bloomington. So welcome.
Thank you.
And also joining us, a lady that I've had the pleasure of talking to on the phone several times over the years about various issues, Skye Borden. How are you?
Hi, Peter. It's great to be here.
You bet. She has a Bachelor of Science in Political Science from Middlebury College, a Master's in Environmental Law and Policy from Vermont Law School, and a Juris Doctorate from Vermont Law School. And so she is here with us as well. So, ladies, what is the topic? What are we talking about here today?
Well, I think maybe some people would like to talk about the election results,
yes.
but also I talked about it in September. I teach a class called The Politics of Emotions. So I was going to give some updates on that class, how everything's going.
Please do. Because I do know, we were talking about this during before we started the show, that after every major election, there's always all these YouTube deals of people freaking out. Oh, I can't stand it. I'm never going to talk to anybody again. And the emotion is so raw. When the election first, the results are first announced, that people just go off. And unfortunately, those videos live forever. And it's really kind of sad to think that someone who ordinarily is very, just really cool, and then they just kind of lost it for a minute. And that's the only thing people remember about them, unfortunately.
Yes, absolutely. But that's why I really liked on Friday, we had David Becker do a dialogue with the Mansfield Center on the election, and he really kind of nailed this idea home that the 2020 and the 2024 elections were huge successes. So politically, he said, maybe it's a mess. Half the country is really upset. Half the country, or more than half the country, is very happy with the results. So he really wanted to talk about process, and that in terms of transparency, in terms of turnout, that it actually was a success. It's only trailing the 2020 election in terms of turnout by around 6 million votes. So I think that was really nice to hear that in terms of transparency, it was pretty positive.
And so how did he, obviously a lot of observation went into that because he does political commentary. And so share how the ingredients that went into those comments.
So he talked about the secure processes that our elections have in the United States. And so he kind of talked about the scope of his work and the organization, which is called the Center for Election Innovation and Research. They really try and communicate how elections are done to the broader public. And he really encouraged that all of us as citizens, he said we should all volunteer for an election process. And then we can kind of see how the sausage is made and see, all of these kind of processes that are linked together to ensure that the right person wins. And the right person who America voted for was President Donald Trump. And that was a success.
I will tell you, I worked over the years very closely with the elections administrator here in Missoula. And I will tell you, Bradley Seaman is a great guy, and he does a wonderful job. And we've had lots of conversations on the local level of when you think about the sheer number of people and hours and dedication that is put into a local election, then make that state and then make it federal. It is an enormous process and very, very important.
Yes, and I think it's very interesting, too. You're talking about more local elections, how much money still goes into these very localized elections. And I think Montanans on both sides are a little shocked when they hear that. I think it was $485 were spent per voter on political advertisements.
I think it's just in the Senate race, wasn't it?
Yeah, just in the Senate race. Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, so can we talk about that, because money in politics, every political season, this comes up. There's too much money in politics. Well, that's because money is speech. It always has been, compared to speech, right?
Yes, I believe the Supreme Court, I forget which justice it was,
right,
but had this whole idea that money is speech. But I think Montanans in particular have a distinct opinion on that in terms of some of the anti-corruption laws that are left over from the Copper Baron eras. So,
well, I'll tell you what, we're up against our first break. I just want folks to know, hey, the phone lines are open. If you'd like to visit with Skye and Ericka, we'd love to hear from you. If you have a question or a comment about what their work is about, give us a call at 721-1290, 1-800-568-5309. We're coming right back after this quick timeout.
When you buy
Dennis Bragg with your Town Square weather forecast. Valley rain with high country snow continues on Tuesday, turning to all rain in the afternoon. Snow totals at the passes and in the peaks could be anywhere from a few inches up to a foot across western Montana as this storm pushes through. Gusty winds will continue as we climb into the mid-40s again Tuesday afternoon. Wednesday looks to be a cloudy day. Then we get our next round of moisture, bringing more rain in the valleys and snow at the higher elevations, especially above 4,500 feet.
Okay, we are back on Talkback. Peter Christian here, Nick Christensen over there taking your phone calls this morning, producing Talkback. And the Mansfield Center at the University of Montana, we have special guests here in the studio, Skye Borden and Ericka Coe. So let's take it away. Ericka, go ahead, please.
So I think the other thing I would love to talk about is, what's been going on in my class. So each of the classes the last few weeks, we focused on a different emotion. And so we've talked about joy and hope. We've talked about fear and anxiety and, disgust and loathing, a lot of really lighthearted topics. So we kind of go through the class and we define, okay, what is fear? It's this, unpleasant emotion that someone is going to hurt you or harm you, cause you pain. And then we kind of looked at it in a political sense, right? So we actually went back 60s, 70s, 80s and looked at political ads. I thought they would be sick of the political ads from the contemporary era. So we went to Johnson versus Goldwater and saw all these kind of shots of bombs going off. And we looked at, the bear in the woods, this symbolism, right, for a lot of Reagan's campaign to kind of represent the Soviet Union. We listened to the music, and then I kind of asked the students, what they felt in terms of the music and the imagery and what response that kind of prompted in them.
Well, I think anyone who watched especially the U.S. Senate campaign between John Tester and Tim Sheehy, I tell you, some of those ads were bitter and angry and a lot of vitriol going back and forth on both sides. And I did have the opportunity to attend the debate that they had in the Montana Broadcasters Association. And what was interesting is they were both cordial with each other. They challenged each other on various things, but there was no, name calling or finger pointing or any of that. It was very calm. It was done by the Montana Broadcasters Association. Of course, University of Montana, I believe, KUFM hosted the event, and I was very impressed with the way they handled themselves and getting those candidates to open up.
Was there a winner declared or no?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Just an opportunity, right, for them to share their platforms.
Basically, the people said, okay, here are the two candidates. Everyone's going to get a same question, right? And then they have a response and then a rebuttal and that sort of thing. It was very, very well done with time limits and the bit. And I was very impressed with the way it was handled.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm sorry I missed that.
But anyway, so please continue about your class.
No, and so actually last week we talked about disgust, as this feeling of revulsion or strong disapproval, kind of compared with loathing, which is a more intense form of aversion, which the authors we read connect loathing actually to a desire to eliminate a perceived threat. So the argument was actually that disgust or even contempt can be useful democratically because it doesn't automatically lead to, this desire to kill or harm the political other. So I thought that was very interesting, right? Like, and we think of terms contempt, like upward contempt, right? That can be democratically useful when citizens kind of band together and have critiques of elites. It can be useful in keeping leaders in check.
Okay. Well, we do have a caller on the line. Let's go ahead and get Susan on the line. Susan, good morning. You're on with our guests, Skye and Ericka. Go ahead, please.
Well, I really appreciate their comments, and I want to say that very touched by the statement by Senator Tester. I thought his concession speech was exceptionally eloquent and very. I just thought it was excellent. I wish that Powell had been so polite and accepting. I think that I am extremely proud of Senator Tester for the way he conducted himself when he made the concessions. And I will say that I thought the advertising was predominantly from dark money, and I don't think we should put a cap on it. That is, if George Soros wants to spend billions and billions of dollars, he can have at it. And it shows that even though Tester spent or had money spent, and I don't know how much money was spent on his campaign, but the people that voted for Tim Sheehy saw through the ads and voted for Tim Sheehy. I was really surprised. That's all I'm going to say.
Thank you for the call, Susan. Ladies, go ahead, please. Well, we haven't heard from you yet, Skye, so go ahead, please. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think spending in politics is a serious issue, and you feel that when you're in Montana, right? I don't know how many text messages you were getting a day towards the end of the campaigns, but I was probably getting 6 or 7, and regular phone calls. So, existing in a somewhat swingy purple state around an election cycle can be a really frustrating experience. Well,
my wife and I, we have a 150-foot walk out to our mailbox. And so we would walk out there betting, okay, how many political ads do you think we have today? Well, I think the most we ever got in one day was 10. So, and you go through, and it's the candidates, it's the various ballot issues, it's you name it. The money spent is staggering. Right. And you had mentioned, Ericka, that there's a fixed dollar amount per vote, right?
I mean, yeah, especially with the Senate election, tensions were really high, and there was a lot of money coming in support of both parties from outside the state as well.
Do we have an amount?
Oh, I don't know the exact amount. I wouldn't want to guess.
It's up in the hundreds of millions of dollars. I would imagine so.
Absolutely.
All right. Let's get. Tell you what, we're a minute before a break, so we'll get Tom on the line, and we have 7 other phone lines open. If you'd like to weigh in with Skye Borden and Ericka Coe, they're here from the Mansfield Center. We'll be right back with more. Hopefully your phone calls, or you can use the KGVO app. We'll get your text messages after this.
Montana State News Network.
I'm Dennis Bragg. Even as Butte authorities issue warnings about fentanyl following a rash of overdoses over the weekend, authorities continue to try and stop the flow of drugs into Montana. Just last week, a Butte woman who had already been busted for dealing meth multiple times was sentenced to 10 years in federal prison. The U.S. Attorney's Office says DEA agents had caught 36-year-old Jerry Angeline Phillips 3 separate times between October of 2021 and March 2023, seizing $58,000 in cash and guns. Investigators say during one stop, they found she was carrying $37,000 in cash and was planning to buy more drugs in Washington. If you're planning on donating this week to help with a blood battle for the Brawl of the Wild donation competition, organizers are recommending you register beforehand to save time. Keely Van Mindendorp is with the American Red Cross.
We just want to make sure that we can respect everyone's time and make sure that we can streamline the process those days. So we encourage people to sign up at redcrossblood.org and using the sponsor code GrizzCat Challenge, all one word. And then those drives, the blood battle drives, will pull up and they can choose a time that's best for them.
Today's donations are at the Center for Campus Ministry at MSU, tomorrow and Thursday at the James Todd Center at UM, and the UM School of Pharmacy on Friday. The Cats won the donation competition last year. The mailing of Cascade County's 2024 property tax bills is being delayed due to the recertification of mill levies for fiscal year 2024-2025. Cascade County officials expect statements will go out by the end of November now. First half payments will be due December 31st, while property tax assistance program exemptions are due January 21st, 2025. After receiving their bills, residents will have 30 days to pay. If you have any questions, you can contact the Cascade County Property Tax Department. This is the Montana State News Network.
For more on these stories and others around Montana, download the Montana State News app.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting a Teenager. Learning the lingo.
GOAT, G-O-A-T, acronym, stands for Greatest of All Time. As in, spaghetti sandwiches for dinner? They're my fave. Dad, you're the GOAT.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same. Visit adoptuskids.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
If I could be you.
And you could be me for just 1 hour.
If you could find a way
to get inside each other's mind.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
We've all felt left out. And for some, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
We are back. It gets me every time. We are back on Talkback. 721-1290 is our number. The ladies from the Mansfield Center here. Skye Borden's here with us, along with Ericka Coe. And Skye, I know there are some things you wanted to address before we get to our calls.
Oh, yeah. I just wanted to talk briefly about what the Mansfield Center does. I know that we're on pretty regularly, but as a reminder for some of your listeners, we are a nonpartisan academic center that's dedicated to honoring the life and legacy of Senator Mike Mansfield. He was America's longest-serving Senate Majority Leader. And while he was in Congress, he shepherded through a lot of bipartisan landmark legislation, including the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act. And so one of the ways that we honor his legacy is through our democracy and civic engagement programming. And Ericka's work at the university is part of that. But we also have a wide range of programs that include a lot of high school student opportunities. We provide professional development training for high school teachers. And we also have a lot of opportunities for community members to get involved, including our dialogue series. And at the heart of all of the civic engagement and democracy work that we do is kind of two pillars. Like, one is that we are seeing consistently that high school students and middle school students do not have a basic understanding of civics. So they just don't know how government works.
Wow.
And the other challenge is that we're really seeing across the board, adults down to kids, is some real challenges in just respectfully engaging with people who have different opinions than our own. And I think that that does show up in different ways in different generations. Like, I'm in my 40s, right? And so my sort of generational cohort, we like pioneered the fighting at the Thanksgiving table about politics, right? We turned that into a blood sport. But the new generation of high school students grew up in that environment. They grew up as little kids that were running away from the table while the adults were fighting. Right. And so a lot of how that shows up with the younger high school students is just a real aversion to even engage in these kind of conversations. And, you know, it's become popular to kind of poke fun at that generation and the need for safe spaces and things like that. But they have a real emotional reaction to even talking about politics sometimes because they've seen such bad behavior modeled in the adults that they know. So a lot of what we try to do with our programming is create these good conversations, really put very different people together and create an environment where they can meaningfully engage with one another. My favorite program that we run right now, one of them is a youth exchange program. We take a dozen students from Chicago, from urban Chicago, a dozen students from rural Montana. They spend a week in Montana talking about issues that are important to Montanans. They go to working ranches and talk about gun ownership. They talk about grizzly bears.
Right.
They go to a homeless shelter, talk about some of our housing affordability issues. And then they go to Chicago and do the same thing.
I was going to ask you,
Yeah.
I'd love to, what's the turnabout when they go to Chicago?
Well, I mean, Chicago, a lot of times they talk about the similar issues from a different perspective.
Right.
But if you're talking to a former gang member about gun ownership, it looks a little different than talking to a rancher out in Clinton about gun ownership. But that diversity of opinion really helps to kind of evolve our thinking about issues, right? And so we talk about similar issues in both places, but from a rural lens and an urban lens. And then the kids wrap up with a week in D.C. where they meet with all of our representatives and chat about what they've learned.
So how does a young person get into a program like that? I mean, is it simply, is it the luck of the draw, or do you go to all the high schools, or how does that work?
So applications for that program are open to all Montana, I believe it's upcoming juniors.
Right.
And that's an application process. All of our opportunities are going to be available on our website, which is umt.edu/Mansfield.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Yeah.
Ericka, go ahead.
We
have some callers.
Oh, yes, we do. We do. I'm sorry, Nick. We do have callers. I'm forgetting my place here. And we do have an app question as well. Let's get Tom on first. Tom, you've been waiting the longest. What's your question for our guests? Go ahead.
Yeah. I'd just like to talk a little bit about how I thought that talking about all the ads you got and all the text messages. And I believe from the Democrat side in Montana this year was one of the dirtiest campaigns I've ever seen in my life. I'm 77 years old. And now that I talk about this, going back and having the kids talk to each other, the Democrats are all melting down now, and they're all saying how they're going to do every possible thing to subvert the will of the election. Talking about don't talk politics to your friends. Don't be around your friends that voted for Donald Trump. He's the worst thing in the history of the world. They called him a fascist, a Nazi. They did every possible thing. I think the Democrats have really sunk to a new low. I know when Senator Mansfield was majority leader in the Senate, they say that he worked across the aisle. Well, they jammed through the Great Society and some of the worst legislation that this country has ever seen. So, I'm a partisan. I'll admit it, but I would never say the things about Monica Trinnell or John Tester and stuff that they said about Ryan Zinke and Tim Sheehy and now President-elect Trump. I never referred to Joe Biden as a Nazi, a horrible human being. And there's a lot of cultural issues going on in this country that we didn't have before. And I think the American people have spoken. And I just wonder how many, very conservative Republicans maybe that work at the Mansfield Center do your people that we have on the air, would they ever have considered voting for a Republican, even if it wasn't President Trump, maybe a state legislature or Tim Sheehy or Ryan Zinke. So anyway, I just think the partisanship is completely out of control, and that there's no chance. The Democrats are already deciding which ways they can go to put a roadblock in front of what the American people have spoken for. So maybe, the people with the Mansfield Center, I'm sure they're more left of center than I am, but maybe they could talk about what they plan to do to help President Trump get his agenda through. So anyway, I haven't called in 6 or 8 weeks, and always listen, but give other people a chance to talk. So,
all right, Tom, thank you for the call, and we'll have our guests address those issues when we come back. We're up against a break. About every 10 minutes, we'll take a commercial break, so we'll come right back. Our guests here in the studio are Skye Borden and Ericka Coe from the Mansfield Center, and Dave is also waiting on the phone. We also have an app question, and the many phone lines open. If you'd like to join in on this conversation, we'd love to have you. 721-1290 is the number, or 1-800-568-5309. Back right after this.
Hey, Frank. Hi, I'm Carson Kressley. Of all the resources in the world, kindness is the most precious. For more than 140 years, American Humane has been working to protect animals in disasters, on farms, on the silver screen, and in zoos and aquariums caring for the world's vanishing creatures. You can help too by making humane choices every day. Visit AmericanHumane.org for simple ways to build a more caring and compassionate world for all of us.
Hey, we're back. This is Talk Back. 721-1290 is our number. Tom had some interesting things to say, some points to make, and I know that Skye, you wanted to address some of them. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. No, I mean, I really appreciated hearing Tom's perspective. I think even if your guy won, even if you're really thrilled with the outcome of that election, I think we can all agree that the campaigning and the run-up to it, it didn't feel good. You know, the tone in our politics has gotten really ugly. And
when was the last time somebody took a shot at a presidential candidate? That in my memory, I don't remember that. I've been around for a long time, so please go ahead.
Yeah. And so, you know, part of what we want to do is really contribute in our own small way to turning around the way that we engage with each other. And in speaking to Tom's point about the politics of the Mansfield Center, we are very specifically a nonpartisan center. We have 100 staff, a little over 100 staff. They represent the full range of the political spectrum. We had Trump voters, we had Harris voters, we had people who didn't vote at all. And we also
that surprises me.
Yeah, we also
go ahead.
We also really intentionally have an advisory board that is, I'm not going to say nonpartisan because they're all pretty actively involved in politics, but it is bipartisan. We have people who are very closely affiliated with the Sheehy campaign, and we had people who worked closely with the Tester campaign. And
how did they get along in office?
You know, really well.
Good.
You'd be surprised when you get in these kind of upper levels of politics and you get behind closed doors. You know, things may be pretty aggressive because that plays to the base and it gets people excited and might get people turning out to vote. But a lot of these sort of important decision makers actually really work well together behind the scenes. And that's something that, you know, we did see in the legacy of Mike Mansfield. His closest friend in Congress was Everett Dirksen, who could not have been more different than Senator Mansfield, right? Mansfield was famous for running away from the cameras. He had his one-word response to reporters, yep, that he said to everyone. Dirksen was like a former showbiz guy, and he loved the cameras, and his nickname was Crybaby Dirksen because he was all about emoting and feeling big feelings. But they were from opposite sides of the aisle. Dirksen was a Republican, Mansfield was a Democrat, and they worked very closely to pass those big landmark bills. And Mansfield even, you know, actively supported Dirksen when he was running against a Democrat.
And he heard about it, I'm sure.
Oh, he did. He did, but he thought it was the right thing to do.
That's exactly the phrase. Because many of the things you're talking about are simply the right thing to do, right? No matter what side of the political fence you're on, there are right things, there are wrong things to do. There are good ways to treat people, there are bad ways to treat people. And unfortunately, sometimes the bad gets the headlines. So.
Yeah, and it gets the clicks and the likes and the attention. Yeah.
Now, Ericka, did you want to weigh in on that at all? Or?
Yeah, I think there's a huge difference between a campaigning mindset and a governance mindset. And I think, that when it gets really dirty during the campaign, it's harder for politicians to switch over to the governing mindset, which makes policy very difficult to achieve. Yeah.
All right, let's get a call in. Dave has been waiting the longest. Dave, good morning. You're on with our guests, Skye and Ericka. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, first of all, about money. George Soros' money is bad money. We all hate George Soros spending money, but we love Elon Musk's money he spends. I mean, it depends on your side of the wall you're on. I mean, as an independent, if you listen to Fox News, you're going to hear all the bad things that the Democrats say, and if you listen to MSNBC, you're going to hear all the bad things that the Republicans say, and it's a real dividing point in my mind, because both sides have accused each other of being enemies of America, and we need to come together. And I think politicians should run differently. I would like to see issue debates. And the individuals getting together in a series of long debates to discuss specific issues and what they could do to fix the problem. And Otherwise, we just leave it up to the MSNBCs and the Fox News to tell us what we want to hear.
All right, Dave, thanks for the call. Ladies, your response.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I mean, our current environment, if it's very easy to just consume things that reinforce what you believe.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's human nature.
Yeah. We just recently had a democracy forum, and that brought 250 high school students from across the region to come together to campus and experience a day in the life of a civically engaged college student. One of the things that we did for that forum is we had a couple of longtime reporters and broadcasters come and speak about media literacy. One of the things that they suggested for our students, and I think this is good advice for everyone, and actually started doing it a little bit more since that speech, is to intentionally go out of your way to consume media from a different perspective than what you generally do. So, if you're an MSNBC person, flip over to Fox News and see how they're covering the same issue. You need to intentionally seek out that diversity of perspective, and it really will help you be a better informed citizen. It'll probably help you be a little bit less angry about a lot of issues as well, right? Because there are a lot of news sources that are intentionally sort of stoking some of that anger or fear, those kind of base emotions. And when you bring in different perspectives, it can help to even things out.
When you get into the digital end of things, it's all about the clicks, right? And so the angrier, the more vitriolic you get, the more clicks you get, or the more responses that you receive, and that's how you are judged or how you're valued by the amount of reaction, whether it's positive or negative. So anyway. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I think another part of the Democracy Forum and the kind of responsible media piece was looking at the influence of artificial intelligence and actually seeing, this like huge uptick in, we've talked about fake news, but AI generated news articles or AI generated images, and just talked about best practices in terms of, doing a little more work to investigate. Does the person in the picture have 8 fingers on one hand? There are certain ways to tell when it's AI generated, and voters have a huge responsibility to investigate their issues. Yeah,
I am really glad that I'm nearing the end of my broadcasting career, right? Because when I think about AI, it literally scares me to death, because who knows who's putting what into that content. It's scary.
Yes, and David Becker actually last Friday, he talked about the Russian bots. There's still a ton of evidence that we had a lot of outside influence in terms of social media posts and advertisements that we can't really we know where it's coming from. We don't know who's doing it, but it's harder to trust what we ingest in terms of news.
We'll have to be more and more careful. Right. Mm-hmm. We're going to come right back. We have Jack and Jeff both waiting to visit with you. And do we still have the app question, Nick?
Yeah, but we'll take our
Okay,
calls.
you bet. We'll take the calls first. We're going to come right back. By the way, the phone lines are open at 721-1290, 1-800-568-5309. We'd love to have you be a part of this conversation about the election just passed, just exactly a week ago. In fact, we'll be back right after this.
As colder weather...
This is your captain. We are going to be experiencing some slight turbulence. Please fasten your... Oh, hold on. Just got a video of my cat.
Imagine the pilot of an airplane was as confident as you are texting and driving. Seems kind of crazy when you put it like that.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
My name is Teresa Barber. I was in the United States Navy, and I served overseas in the Middle East and Africa. Early on in my career, I had a commander that taught our suicide prevention training, and the very next day, he took his own life. 90% of suicide attempts involving a gun are fatal. My way of continuing my service is to help protect my community by being a responsible gun owner and by storing firearms safely. Store all your guns securely. Help stop suicide.
Brought to you by End Family Fire and the Ad Council.
We are back on Talkback. I'm Peter Christian, by the way. Nick Christensen over there taking your phone calls and producing Talkback as he does every day. And joining us here in the studio this morning from the University of Montana's Mansfield Center, Skye Borden and Ericka Coe. And Jack has been waiting. So, Jack, thank you for holding, sir. You're on with our guests. What's your question, please?
Well, not a question, more of a comment and exhortation to my fellow Americans. You know, we're pretty distracted with what news network we watch and listen to and which ones we should. And we're distracted with people who are losing their mind and shaving their heads and things like that. But, you know, we've got, sadly, our voter turnout in elections is pretty low. This is a country that was founded on the idea that it was going to be governed by the people. It was going to be a government of, for, and by the people. And if we voted, that's great, but we have not discharged our duty in that system simply by voting. Now that we've voted, and now that we have our elected representatives in place, it's our job to start governing as people. They are our representatives. They're not our rulers. They are not our leaders. They are not our thinkers. We are supposed to make known to them the will of the people, how we would have our nation governed. We need to read our Constitution. It's inspiring. We need to read the Declaration of Independence. We need to look at things like the Federalist Papers, and we, the people, need to start governing. Both houses of Congress in this nation are wildly unpopular with the general population and have been for decades. But we put them there, and we keep putting them there. We are the most empowered people on the planet Earth. And we, at the top level of our population now, the best we do is vote. We seldom get involved in primary process. We show up for a general election. We turn the keys over to them. Most of us never say anything to them once they're in office. And then we complain about what happens. We, the people, need to govern. You need to be a part of your Republican or Independent or Democrat county group. You need to get involved with them. You need to see what they are doing as a group to put forth ideas, to find the will of the people, to transmit the will of the people to our representatives, and start holding them accountable at primaries, or this will never change. It will continually degenerate into chaos, into the kind of thing we're seeing today.
Jack, you're a man after my own heart, man. Thank you for the call. So, ladies, your response.
I really appreciate the sentiment behind Jack's comments. I will push back that in 2020 and 2024, we've had like the highest national election turnout in the history, of voting in the United States. So 2020 and 2024, I think, is trailing behind. I think it was 158 million in 2020 and 152. But yes, that means that only 2/3 of the voting eligible population turned out, right? So I think we would all love if a higher percent of Americans turned out to vote. And of course, the local level especially is where people can make the biggest impact. So I think people should run for their school board or run for these more local positions. And then Jack mentioned another point that's really important. You don't just stop paying attention after the election. You need to go in and make your claims and make sure that your elected officials are being held accountable.
I do know with Nick and I have worked with our congressional delegation for years, and each one of them has a local representative here in Missoula. And so if there's something you think that Senator Daines or now Senator Sheehy, once he gets the staff all together, or either of our two representatives, Troy Downing now and Ryan Zinke, they have local staff in each major city. So if you have a question or a dispute or an issue, you call them and say, "Hey, I'm Bob Smith, and I'm really worried about this. What's going on with the forest over here? Can you please get in touch with the congressman and let him know?" And they will do that. That is their job, being with their feet on the ground. So, and those are all very important offices to have.
Yeah, and I think because we're so saturated with political news, we kind of think, okay, I'm reading this Facebook post or I'm sharing it, I'm doing something. And I think that gives us this false sense of empowerment. And so I think we can really combat that by actually going out and doing what you're suggesting, talking to your elected officials, organizing with other people for different advocacy things. Yeah.
And I think if you were to talk with the 12 members of our city council or our 3 county commissioners, they would absolutely be championing, use that a word, championing you, and having people come out to the city council meeting, come out to the county commissioner meetings and make their voices heard. At last time I checked, all 12 of the city councilors, their phone numbers are right there in the city directory. And so they, like our friend Sandy Vasika is a city councilor, and she loves when people call, and even if it's not in her ward, she will get them in touch with the people that can represent them. So I think it's so important for us to get involved and be active. So.
Yeah, and I'll add too that, you know, the work of being a good citizen extends beyond voting and even interacting with elected officials. If you're concerned about, pick any policy issue, homelessness, there's a wide variety of groups that are working on that issue here in Missoula. You can volunteer for them. You can be part of citizens groups that are doing cleanups or serving food or working on housing and affordability. And so, you know, there's a lot of different ways that you can give back to your community beyond just interacting with electeds. And that's part of the work of contributing to a healthy, thriving democracy too.
You bet. We're going to come right back. We have our final break. Jeff is waiting, and we also have an app question when we come back. Stay with us. We'll be back in 1 minute after this timeout.
What's a corn farmer's favorite dog? A husky.
Some things shouldn't be flat. But with GHX, you can maximize your acres with one flat price. While other brands sell by the bag, we sell seed by the acre to maximize your yield and profit potential. Our custom seed recommendations combine extensive product characterization and agronomic expertise to get the right product, population, and placement, all for one flat price per acre. Learn how at ghxseed.com/connect.
Hey, welcome back to Talk Back. 721-1290 is our number. Should we hit the app question, Nick?
No, Jeff's been on hold for a
Jeff's
while.
been on hold. Jeff, thank you for your patience, sir. You're on with our guests, Skye and Ericka. Go ahead.
Oh, it's very onerous. It's the hardest thing I do is to be on hold waiting to come on. So.
Go ahead.
Jokes. I can't remember which of your guests said it, but talked about millennials or Gen Zers or somebody who talked about emotion, started off with fear. And years ago, almost 40 years ago now, a wise person pointed out to me that anger is a secondary emotion, and that's caused by something else. And over the years, I discovered it's always fear. And that's because that's the way we're built as human beings. We have a limbic system that if we see a threat, it disengages all the cognitive parts of our brain, and we respond with either flight or fight. And the anger part is for the fight. You need to get angry in order to be able to protect yourself. So I think it's an essential part of being a person to be able to feel the anger appropriately. And the running away from it, and politically, I think, discourages a sense of resilience. You know, if you face fear, if you face threats, and you overcome them, you improve your self-confidence, and you improve your resilience. And I think for kids, that resilience factor is all essential. I won't go into my own background, but as I look back at it now, that growing up, the things I'd endured, it was my resilience that allowed me to get past it. And it's nothing more than facing your fears and going out and trying anyway. And so I'd like to hear your thoughts on not just saying, well, yeah, we have a bunch of snowflakes out there who ran away from conflict, but what's the solution for this? We need to get people in touch with their fear, get them to work past their fear, and get them to be able to deal with stressful situations in a non-violent, non-angry manner.
Jeff, well said. Thank you. Ladies, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I really appreciate Jeff's comments a lot. There's like kind of a debate in political science in terms of the extent to which anger and fear are rational. So I really liked his comment that, like, yeah, it is rational to a certain extent. Sometimes we get triggered. So we have to first put a handle on that and then choose to engage with these cognitive elements, right? Like, okay, what part is this, reaction I can't control, and what part is something that I actually need to engage or do some more political work on? And I think, yeah, there's this avoidance piece, and then how do we get to the responsible engagement piece? I think we can encourage our leaders and encourage each other to really, ask these questions. Am I engaging with someone for the sake of letting out emotion to prove I'm right, or am I engaging with someone to learn something from the other side and learn something more about the issue? So is the rhetoric I'm using, is it deliberative in the sense, is it promoting thoughtful reflection? And so that's why I really appreciate the Mansfield Center's, commitment to creating these spaces where people come learn about a particular issue and get to ask questions. And I think, we have some great upcoming events that I think people would be really interested in.
Like what? If you don't mind.
Hey,
go ahead.
Right,
It's all yours.
We have a handful of upcoming dialogues, and these are opportunities for community members to come and listen to a really important thinker on a variety of subjects. And then following these dialogues, we have a reception where we have a bigger sort of discussion. You're able to talk about all the things that you just learned. So November 14th at 6:30 p.m. On campus in the UC Theater, we have Owen Sears. He's going to be discussing Israel, Palestine, and the Middle East. On November 19th.
No small topic there.
No small topic.
Yeah, really.
With a wide variety of opinions, right? November 19th at 6:30 p.m., we're actually going to go to MSU Billings, but that will also be available virtually. We have Dr. Paul Lauren, who's the founding director of the Mansfield Center, and he's going to be discussing a little bit more about the life and legacy of the Mansfields. And then finally on December 5th at 7 p.m. in the UC, we're going to have presidential historian Doris Kearns Goodwin.
Wow.
And she'll be talking about leadership lessons from the 1960s and what we can learn for our current political
context. Is she going to be live here in Missoula?
Yeah, she's going to be she's going to be on campus. And
that's
we'll also
a great honor.
Yeah, we're thrilled to have her.
Yeah, you bet. And so is that open to the public?
That's open to the public. You can register on our website. And again, like for all of those, you can either attend in person or virtually on Teams.
Let's get the app question in before we let you ladies go. We only got about 2 minutes left. Do we have time?
Yeah, we'll do it really quick. We kind of talked about it earlier. Joel said in the Montana Senate race, a super PAC spent $36 million on attack ads against the opposition. He wanted to know, can there be too much money in negative campaigning, and is it detrimental to the desired candidate? So like backfiring there.
Yeah, so I think one of the things that we found is that it really doesn't change much on the margins, right? You spend millions and millions of dollars and it can only change a fraction of a percentage point. But if the other candidate is doing it too and you decide not to do it at all, that could actually be the make or break moment for the election. So we found ourselves in a little bit of an arms race, right? Where everyone is spending more because the other guy is spending more. And we have to match it.
Broadcasters are saying, bring it.
Yeah. And there's some winners in that, with ad revenue. But I do think we have gotten to a point where it's detrimental for the overall kind of political conversation and the political climate. It feels overwhelming.
Real quickly, some contact information for both of you in case folks want to communicate with you and ask questions.
All of our information is available on the website, which again is umt.edu/Mansfield.
Great. Well, I just want to say thank you both for being here today. Any final words from you, Ericka?
No, I'm just, so grateful for the chance to be here. And I really think that this is such an important topic. Taking the time to talk about how the election went and letting everyone kind of process and kind of share their views. I think these spaces are so important. So thanks for having us.
Thank you for your sharing your expertise with us. We appreciate it. And thanks to the Mansfield Center. Appreciate
Thank you
it.
so much.
All right. So, Nick, what's coming up on tomorrow's fabulous program, sir?
It's our friend and resident CPA, Walt Caro. He's here to answer your tax question.
All right. And we're getting ever closer to that time now. So, and again, thank you all for listening this morning. Thanks for paying attention. Thanks for all your phone calls. We appreciate it. And thanks to Skye and Ericka for being and sharing their expertise with us today. So that's going to do it for Talkback today. And get out there. I understand we have some weather on the way, so please be aware of that and be very, very careful out there, especially if it starts to snow.